You're listening to Newswire with Austin Pollock.
Well, the war in Gaza is raging on. There is a humanitarian crisis there. Thousands of Palestinians have been killed by Israeli armed forces. But conversely, over 1,000 Israelis were killed by Hamas in October 7 attacks, and hostages are still being held, and rockets continue to rain down on Israeli towns. Now, both sides accuse the other of war crimes, and they both say they're acting in self-defense. It's no secret that some people have some pretty strong views on this, including how our government is responding. And with that, nationwide protests have been taking place. There have been ones in Sydney where protesters shut down the Harbour Bridge, and now it's happening here in Brisbane. On August 24, 7,000 or so protesters plan to march from Kangaroo Point over the Story Bridge, which is pretty much the main bridge here in Brisbane. Police have said that the protest will be unsafe, and they've called for some change to it. They say, quote, on August 11, the QPS advised organisers the initial proposed assembly route was not authorised due to public safety concerns and significant disruption to the rights and freedoms of other members of the community. QPS have initiated mediation with the organisers to discuss alternative march routes, but organisers say they're determined to continue with the plan. So to find out what's going on, Rima Naji from Justice for Palestine joins me here on the Newswire. Hello to you.
Hello to you too, Austin. How are you?
Very well. Thanks a lot for your time here. Firstly, how is the mediation going? What routes have they suggested, and will you be taking them?
So we haven't sat down with the police yet for that mediation, and we are in the process of determining the time and date for that mediation. So the police have initiated mediation on Tuesday morning, and we only heard today from that third-party mediator to book in a time. We have not decided on a time that works for all parties yet, but we are in the process, and I believe we're going to lock in a time by this afternoon.
Okay. Could you run us through what the plans are at this stage and what possible alternative plans are for the protest?
Yeah, so the plan is to assemble at 1 o'clock at Raymond Park in Kangaroo Point, have speeches for about an hour, and then march across the Story Bridge and end at the Centenary at Park. And that plan has not changed. We are still determined to go ahead with this plan. We are going to enter those negotiations in good faith. However, we are determined to defend our right to peacefully protest under the Peaceful Assembly Act here in Queensland. And just to clarify to people, I know that there have been some reports going around, especially after the statement of the police saying that this rally is not authorised. Actually, under the Peaceful Assembly Act here in Queensland, our rally across the Story Bridge on the 24th of August is authorised. Until there is a court ruling that says otherwise, our rally is authorised.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Everyone does have a right to protest, and that's a very good thing about living here in Australia. We are very lucky to have that. But do you think shutting down a city and shutting down a major bridge will actually help people sympathise with your cause?
Look, Austin, protests have been happening since the beginning of the Federation of Australia. People protested on so many things, and one of the purposes of protests is to raise awareness and to be visible. And if genocide, and I should say what's happening in Palestine is not a war. The highest court in the world, the International Court of Justice, has called what's happening in Palestine a plausible genocide. We're talking about a regime whose leader is wanted by the International Criminal Court. So it is a genocide. Even human rights organizations in Israel are saying what's happening in Palestine is a genocide. A genocide, the crime of crimes, genocide that is unfolding right in front of our eyes in our screens, where the victims of this genocide are putting their own lives on the line to document their own suffering, and the killing and the starvation, the forced starvation of their own children is not enough for us to rise up and do something as visible as marching across the Story Bridge. I don't know what is. What are we? Are we a nation of who accomplices? No, we're not. And the point of this rally is that we demand action from our government. Our government is not just complicit in this genocide, and I believe that the word complicit is very mild when compared with the role of our government in this genocide. There is a direct link between the Australian government and the genocide that is occurring in Palestine, and this link is through the export of weapons components. We are an F-35 country, as we have said, as our Foreign Minister said, as our Deputy Prime Minister said. We are an F-35 country, which means that the weapons components that we make here are a part of the F-35 fighter jets that are used to shred the limbs of innocent men, women, and children in Gaza in this live stream genocide. And this, what is happening, the gravity of the situation in Gaza demands an action that is visible and powerful. And this is why we're marching across the Story Bridge.
Sure, but I take your point, but if your aim is to create a demonstration to show your support and to show that it's not right, and you've been warned by the police that it's unsafe and it violates other people's rights and stuff, there are plenty of other places to hold this protest rather than shutting down the Story Bridge and shutting down the city. The Queensland Teachers Union, they protested the other day. They didn't shut down the bridge. Do you not think that you could do it somewhere else, or at least follow the orders of police, and that it's not safe?
First of all, the police have not told us what are the specific reasons and safety concerns, although we asked them in our email in response to their initial email. We did ask them what are the specific safety concerns, because we are willing to address those concerns. If the police are worried about safety, so are we. And all of our protests over the past 22 months demonstrated that we are able to organize protests safely for everyone involved in those protests. So we also want to know what are those specific safety concerns, and the police failed to tell us and outline those specifically for us. And the other thing, in terms of what do we want to achieve, I think I've said that. And the point of protest is to have something visible. The point of protest is disruption. And even if we're talking about going to the city, we've done that. 22 months of us marching on a fortnightly basis, and we started as a weekly basis. We've been going to the city for 22 months. And Austin, you probably saw in Sydney just a couple of weeks ago, the 300,000 people marching across the Harbour Bridge. It shifted narrative. That was the start of the shifting narrative because how powerful that march was across the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And what we're trying to achieve here is something powerful, the biggest, largest mobilization for Palestine that the city has ever seen. And this has got to be the Story Bridge. And we haven't heard, as I said, we haven't heard from the police. What are those specific safety concerns? We want to know, and we want to address them in collaboration with the police.
Yeah, no, it's good that you guys are open to sorting out the safety concerns, and it will be interesting from police to find out what the specific ones are. And you're right in saying, because I believe, if I'm not wrong, off the back of that Sydney protest, what we've seen now is Palestine recognised as an official state by Australia, and follow-ons from that. But I'm more interested in the disruption to people, right, that live in Brisbane. They want to go about their daily lives. I'm interested though. Have you consulted with people outside your group that's organised it? Right? Do they feel protesting and the repeated protesting is actually necessary to support the cause? And secondly, is shutting down the city worth it? What data or what research have you guys done from the rest of the public, not just from your organisation group, about this?
So this process is organized by Justice for Palestine Magazine, right? More than 100 civil society organizations have endorsed this rally across the Story Bridge, and that includes trade unions, faith-based groups, community organizations. We've published some of the names of those organizations on our social media, and more than 100. I mean, that last time I checked was just a couple of days ago, and there were more than 100 organizations. I'm pretty sure more than 100 now have endorsed it, which is an expression of a massive community support for this rally across the Story Bridge. And I know you mentioned earlier that this is our main bridge. Actually, there are a lot of ways to go around across the two sides of the river other than the Story Bridge. And Sunday is not a busy day. Also, considering our right to peaceful assembly, this is such a democratic right. It is fundamental right and a cornerstone of our democratic society. So if we are talking about rights and freedoms, we also have every right to choose where we want to have this demonstration. And we have every right to express, this is our freedom of expression. We want the police to consider the rights of people, thousands of people who are not going to sit still while a live stream genocide is occurring, with support of our own government.
You mentioned there as well, you said that you have the backing of organisations, some unions and faith groups. Could you give us just some of the names of those?
Services unions, the Maritime Union of Australia.
Yep.
It's been endorsed by lots of mosques and community groups, by also the National Tertiary Education Union, other unions as well, like the I can't remember exactly. If you look at our social media, it actually outlines everyone. But just to start, Services Union, Maritime Union of Australia, National Tertiary Education Union. I think these are some of the main unions that have endorsed this rally, and faith-based organizations, including AFIC, which is the highest Islamic foundation here in Australia. Different mosques across the city, like the Kirby Mosque, like the Holland Park Mosque, have endorsed this rally, and also other community organizations. All of this information is available on our social media, and people are encouraged to still make those endorsements, and we will still accept endorsement up until the very day of this rally. So I encourage everyone who is listening to this, if you are part of any organization, to go ahead and endorse, to have that conversation with the members and make that endorsement.
Rima, we know there is always a risk when it comes to a clash of this, or there's always a risk of clashes during protests like these. We've seen it before. What assurances can you give that this one will stay largely peaceful?
Yeah, so we have a good track record of organizing protests with the high standards of safety measures being applied. And we have highly trained marshals who are going to be with us on the 24th of August. And in fact, on the 17th of August, we are organizing an upskilling session because we have received interest from a lot of people who have never marshaled in the past, and now they want to get involved in marshal for the 24th of August. And we have this upskilling session happening on Sunday. We also have a team of medics who have been engaged in our protests for the past 22 months and are ready to act if needed. We have different teams who will ensure that this rally is going to be safe for everyone involved. And all of our rallies are family friendly. We encourage people to come along with their families, with their kids, and with their friends and neighbors. It is an incredible space for everyone to get along, and a massive expression of concern by everyday people. And we have been able to demonstrate over the past 22 months. And so one of our highest attended rallies was the one when we marched to the ABC in November 2023, and that drew about 5,500 people to that rally, and it was incident free. It was incredible that the number of people that attended and the number of people who told us afterwards how incredible and organized that rally was is a testament to our ability to organize those rallies effectively, efficiently. We've considered everything, including marshals, including medics and legal observers and other people who are ready to act. So also we are training people on the 17th of August, and that's also open to anyone who is willing to get involved in the organizing of this rally. And all the details of this day is on our social media. We are planning for this to be another family day. Everything we do, we put the spirit of the community first and foremost. So we encourage people to have a look at it and come along and join us. There are going to be upskilling session in terms of political strategy, in terms of marshalling. The medics team will have their own training as well. So we encourage people to come along and make us have this protest safely and in such an environment that is welcoming for everyone.
We've seen some pretty horrific stuff at some other protests around the country and overseas, including recently the burning of the Australian flag. Do you condemn that sort of behaviour?
Mate, this is a piece of cloth. I don't think anyone should burn flags, but I don't condemn people for doing that. I condemn our government for their lack of action in the face of genocide, because what we demand is sanctioning of Israel in the same way we sanctioned Russia during its invasion of Ukraine. We demand to stop exporting weapons components that are used to shred the limbs of innocent men, women, and children in Palestine, a two-way arms trade embargo, and divestments from businesses operating in legal settlements. These are our demands. And I condemn the lack of action of our government, because the actual killing and the actual suffering is happening in Palestine, and this is our focus.
But the flag is symbolic of Australia and our freedoms. Is there the burning of the Australian flag? I guess represents some pretty horrific stuff. Do you not condemn the burning of, I guess, the symbol of Australia?
You know what? The horrific stuff is the genocide. The live stream genocide that is happening right in front of our eyes. The horrific stuff are the people who are being forced to starve to death. Every single child under the age of 5 in Palestine is malnourished. And malnourishment is a permanent condition. Even if they make it alive, this will affect every organ of their body for the rest of their lives. This is what I condemn. The horror, if we're talking about horrors and what is horrific, the actual genocide is horrific. And I think this has been demonstrated in Gaza.
We've also heard previous protests as well. We have seen some not so friendly chants and what people are saying hasn't always been very appropriate. Are you going to assure that things like that and hate speech and violent antagonistic campaigns don't happen at your protests?
We've protested for even well before this live stream genocide happened, and we never had any of these things happening in our rallies. In fact, we always say there is no place for hate in this movement.
Yeah.
We are welcoming, and this movement is composed of people from all religions and no religions, cultures, ethnicities.
So is burning of
genders,
the Australian flag not
sexualities.
hate?
No, hate. This is not hate. What you know what hate is? Hate is you looking at a live stream genocide and say, well, they deserve it, and don't do anything about it. Hate is seeing a live stream genocide that's been announced as a genocide by the highest court in the world and facilitating the export of weapons parts. That is hate. For us, we say this, we are welcoming. And again, I'm not condoning, I'm not saying that people should burn flags, just to be clear. We've never experienced any of that in our movement here in Maganjan. We've never seen any of these things happening. But if we're talking about condemnation is such a big word. I condemn the lack of action. I condemn this live stream genocide. And our rallies have been, and this is something that we can demonstrate easily, our chants, our speeches, and we always have people expressing themselves freely, and we never seen any of that happening. In fact, people who come into our rallies, they just start wanting to get involved in our organizing straight away. And these are people who have no history of activism. But because of the environment that we create for people, when they come along, when they see what we are advocating for, we're advocating for justice, freedom, and liberation. This is what we advocate for. These are things that everyone should enjoy. And have you ever been to any of our rallies, Austin?
I haven't, no.
I do encourage you to come on the 24th of August. The chants, the speeches, the people involved, the spirits, the children who sometimes lead our marches. It's an incredible environment, and we welcome everyone to come and be part of this.
Well, Rima, I'll tell you what, I'll come along, and with Six News will come along, and we'll cover the protest in Brisbane, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens, and we'd love to chat with some people there, so I'm happy to take you up on that offer.
Amazing. I'll see you then, and I encourage everyone who's listening to us to also come along and be a part of this incredible movement that advocates for human rights and justice, freedom and liberation. There is no hate. There's no place for hate in our movement. We welcome everyone, all religions, all ethnicities, sexualities and gender. There is no discrimination whatsoever. We are all standing together against a live stream genocide, against atrocities. And this is what we stand for.
Well, look, yeah, I'm happy to come along. We'll do some reporting on it, and it will be very good to see the other, the sides of what you guys are fighting for, and I'm sure we'll be able to cover that continuously. Now, in Sydney, I just want to ask you one more question. In Sydney, it was an 11th hour decision from the Supreme Court to ensure that the march went ahead. Now, if police are pretty adamant that your march isn't going to go ahead, if you're blocked from protesting on the bridge, do you plan on taking it higher?
I am sorry, I didn't hear your question because there's a truck driving nearby.
No
so
worries.
I'm going to ask you to repeat that question.
Yeah, I was
please.
just saying in Sydney that it was an 11th hour decision by the New South Wales Supreme Court to assure that the march went ahead because it was originally blocked. If you are blocked from protesting on the bridge, do you plan on taking it higher to allow it to go ahead?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will defend our right to peaceful assembly, and we are prepared to take it as high as we need to.
And a recent poll that Six News has published, conducted by Essential, showed that indeed 41% of Australians thought Israel should permanently withdraw from Gaza. Just finally, just to wrap it up, what is your main aim with the protests? Because it is a poor situation in Gaza, but what are you hopeful that you can achieve specifically by doing this protest, specifically in Brisbane?
So we want to apply pressure on our government to act in, because this is our obligation, our international law. As signatories to the Genocide Convention, we have a responsibility to prevent and punish genocide. And our demands are to sanction Israel, to end the two-way arms trade with Israel, to stop the weapons exports to Israel, and to divest from all companies operating in illegal settlements. And this is what we're hoping to achieve. We want to apply pressure on our government, and we want them to uphold their obligation under international law. I mean, Austin, just a few days ago, a tent of journalists, Al Jazeera journalists, was targeted and everyone was killed. An entire media crew, your colleagues in Gaza, and they're all young. Journalist Anas al-Sharif was only 28 years old, and he got killed in cold blood. And we refuse that this is normalized. Journalists should not be a target. Medics should not be a target. Aid workers should not be a target. And we want our Australian government to act in accordance with international law. That's all we want.
All right, we'll leave it there. Rima Naji, thanks a lot for your time. Let's hope the situation in Gaza does get better. Whichever way you look at it, it is a poor situation. But thank you a lot for your time today.
Thank you, Austin.